The night at The Tonight Show carried an electric charge the moment the audience filed in, buzzing with rumors that Jimmy Fallon had a surprise unlike anything he had attempted before. As the house lights dimmed and the band struck a theatrical Broadway overture, Jimmy burst onto the stage with his trademark hurricane-level enthusiasm, practically vibrating with excitement as he hyped up the crowd. He paced, grinning, teasing that something legendary, musical, chaotic, and totally unnecessary in the best way was about to unfold. Then the lights shifted to a shimmering golden hue, the curtains rippled, and Ariana Grande stepped out in a vintage Broadway-style gown sparkling like stardust. The audience erupted with cheers so loud the floor trembled. Jimmy dropped into a dramatic bow as Ariana laughed and returned the gesture, already slipping into playful stage diva mode. The orchestra swelled behind them with that unmistakable Broadway grandeur, and Jimmy declared, "Tonight, we're turning rap into full-on musical theater." The crowd lost it. Ariana snapped her fingers like a choreographer calling dancers to the stage, and for a fleeting moment, the entire studio felt like the opening of a Tony-winning production. 2. Ariana took center stage, inhaling deeply with melodramatic flair as Jimmy tiptoed behind her like a nervous stagehand from a 1930s musical. The conductor raised his baton, and instead of the pounding bass the audience expected, a swirling overture of violins and trumpets set the tone. Ariana lifted her chin and belted the opening line of "Lose Yourself" by Eminem, not with aggressive intensity, but with rich, soaring Broadway vocals that filled the room like a spotlight breaking through darkness. The crowd exploded into laughter and applause as she dramatized every syllable, clutching her chest, pointing to imaginary balconies, and giving the song the emotional weight of a tragic Broadway heroine. Jimmy pretended to wipe tears, fanning himself like he couldn't handle the beauty of the moment. Ariana continued with exaggerated passion, drawing out long vibrato notes on words no one had ever imagined holding for more than a millisecond. The absurdity, the brilliance, the theatrics, it was everything the audience hoped for. 3. Jimmy leapt forward as soon as Ariana finished, announcing his own number as if he were the star of a 1950s musical revival. He chose "Humble" by Kendrick Lamar, stepping into a spotlight that narrowed perfectly as he took a deep, dramatic breath. The orchestra shifted to a whimsical Disney meets Golden Age Broadway arrangement, soft flutes fluttering like birds waking at sunrise. Jimmy began singing with exaggerated sincerity, "Sit down, be humble," delivered with the emotional force of a man begging his lover not to leave him in the third act of a musical tragedy. The audience cackled as he threw himself to his knees, shaking his fist toward an imaginary balcony seat, spinning around with jazz hands that had absolutely no business accompanying a Kendrick Lamar song. Ariana laughed so hard she had to turn away from the camera, and Jimmy finished by sliding across the stage on his knees like a heartbroken Broadway hero performing a final showstopper. 4. Together, they launched into a duet of "In Da Club" by 50 Cent, transformed into a glittering, upbeat Broadway tap number. Ariana snapped her fingers, Jimmy kicked his legs in vintage tap dance fashion, and the band delivered a swinging jazz arrangement that felt like something straight out of Guys and Dolls. Ariana lifted her skirt theatrically, Jimmy spun her as if they were auditioning for a revival of Chicago, and the two belted, "Go Shorty, It's Your Birthday," with the same gusto Broadway legends reserve for grand finales. The audience screamed with laughter as Jimmy attempted a kickline and nearly toppled over, saved only by Ariana grabbing his jacket sleeve and spinning him back upright with effortless stage queen dominance. The number ended with a Broadway-style freeze pose, Ariana pointing skyward dramatically while Jimmy clung to her arm with faux desperation. 5. Ariana then surprised everyone by calling for silence, stepping forward into a darkened spotlight as she began a slow, emotional, deeply theatrical rendition of "All I Do Is Win." The orchestra behind her softened to trembling strings and delicate piano notes, the kind you'd hear in a heart-shattering Act II ballad. She delivered each line with heartbreaking sincerity, as if singing about lost dreams rather than victorious swagger. Jimmy crept behind her holding a fake handkerchief, wiping imaginary tears. Ariana reached out toward the audience on the line, "Everybody's hands go up," then whispered dramatically, "And they stay there," drawing laughter so thunderous the orchestra had to pause. 6. Jimmy retaliated with a full Broadway power ballad version of "Hotline Bling." The band played sweeping violins in the style of Phantom of the Opera, and Jimmy sang Drake's lyrics with tragic, operatic anguish, clutching his chest as if his soul were crumbling. Ariana joined in as a harmonizing angelic voice, floating behind him like a ghostly soprano haunting an opera house. The audience howled as Jimmy mournfully whispered, "You used to call me on my cell phone," then belted the next line with Broadway-level intensity that had absolutely no place in the context of late-night TV. 7. Their next number exploded into chaos when Ariana challenged Jimmy to perform Bodak Yellow in full Broadway style. Jimmy froze, stared at the audience, then grabbed the mic with an air of heroic duty as the orchestra performed a dramatic, triumphant overture. He delivered Cardi B's lyrics with Shakespearean diction, rolling his R's and projecting like a classically trained stage actor. Ariana fell to the floor laughing as Jimmy paced dramatically, throwing his arm over his forehead like a Victorian widow lamenting her losses. When he dramatically whispered, "You can't mess with me if you wanted to," the crowd nearly broke the sound barrier with laughter. 8. Ariana then stormed the stage with a fiery, belted Broadway version of Sicko Mode. Neon lights flashed, dancers appeared from the wings, and the orchestra blended Broadway drama with jazzy chaos. She belted the lyrics like a powerhouse diva, turning Travis Scott's beat into a show-stopping musical moment that felt big enough for a Tony nomination. Jimmy danced behind her, chaotically jumping from tap steps to ballet poses, completely off-beat but fully committed. The number climaxed with Ariana hitting a whistle note on the word, mood, causing the audience to scream, stand, cheer, and lose their collective minds. 9. For their grand finale, the orchestra swelled into a massive, glitter-drenched overture signaling the ultimate showdown, a Broadway duet of Lose Control by Missy Elliott. Ariana took the high operatic lines, Jimmy belted the lower theatrical parts, and together they performed choreography so exaggerated it looked like every Broadway dance style mashed into one. Jazz hands, kicks, spins, over-the-top expressions, it was chaotic perfection. The audience clapped along, the lights flashed rainbow colors, and even the band members were laughing between notes. 10. As the final chord hit, confetti cannons exploded, showering the stage in glittering gold as Ariana and Jimmy struck a dramatic Broadway finale pose. Ariana with one arm raised triumphantly, Jimmy leaning against her as if fainting from emotional overload. The audience exploded into a standing ovation that shook the studio. Jimmy, out of breath and exhilarated, declared it the greatest Broadway rap crossover event in history that absolutely nobody asked for but everyone needed. Ariana blew a kiss to the crowd, curtsied, and Jimmy bowed so deeply he nearly fell off the stage. It was chaotic, ridiculous, theatrical, and absolutely unforgettable, the kind of late-night moment destined to go viral for years.